Noon, Dustin arrived at the Nicholson family's old residence by car. The old house was located in an urban village. It wasn't very big, with a small courtyard where some flowers and plants were grown. When Dustin got out of the car, he immediately spotted Dahlia standing at the entrance. He had originally planned to pretend not to see her, but before he could even enter the door, she called out to him. "Stop! I have something to say to you." "What is it?" The two stood back to back, each facing away from the other. "Grandpa's health hasn't been great recently. I haven't told him about our divorce yet, to avoid upsetting him." "You think something like that can be kept secret?" "I'll find an opportunity to tell him after the holidays." "But not today." "Okay, I understand. Anything else?" "No." Throwing out the words coldly, Dahlia turned and went into the house. She didn't even glance at Dustin the entire time. From start to finish, their interaction was like that between strangers. Dustin took a deep breath, grabbed the wine he had brought, and walked in. As soon as he entered the living room, he found that many people had already gathered inside. Most of the direct members of the Nicholson family had already arrived. Only his former father-in-law, John, was absent due to a business trip out of town. However, in John's usual seat now sat an outsider, Chris Nolan. "Humph! Someone really thinks he's something, making all of us elders wait for him alone." As soon as she saw Dustin, Florence immediately started mocking him with an unfriendly expression. "Mom, don't say that. He's pretty fierce now. If he loses his temper, he might even dare to hit you." James added sarcastically from the side. Since he was beaten yesterday, he had been holding a grudge. Although the bandages had been removed, the bruises and swelling on his face were still visible. "All right, since everyone's here, let's start eating." Old Master Nicholson smoothed things over and smiled at Dustin. "Little Dustin, come sit next to Grandpa. Let's have a good drink together later." "Okay." Dustin smiled slightly and helped Old Master Nicholson to his seat. "Humph! Bootlicker!" James's eyes flashed with jealousy. He could never understand why his grandfather treated Dustin so well. After all, he was the real grandson. Come, let's have a drink first." "Happy holidays!" Once everyone was seated, Old Master Nicholson immediately called for someone to pour wine. "Grandpa, the wine you bought is too boring. Look at what I brought." James picked up a beautifully packaged bottle of red wine and placed it on the table. "This is a fine wine brought by Chris Nolan, Romani Conti. Let's drink this." "Romani Conti? That must be expensive, right?" someone asked. "Of course it's expensive. This bottle alone is worth over 100,000, James said proudly. "What? Over 100,000 a bottle?" The crowd gasped in shock. None of them had expected a bottle of wine to be so outrageously expensive. Although the Nicholson family was relatively well off, they had never had wine like this before. "Chris, why would you spend so much? It's too extravagant," Florence exclaimed with a mix of surprise and pride. After all, this was the son-in-law candidate she had picked herself. 100,000 is nothing. I still have a whole case of this at home. "Everyone, drink to your heart's content," Chris Nolan said modestly, though his smug expression was obvious. As expected of Chris Nolan. Drinking 100,000 yuan bottle of wine without blinking. Yeah, I've never even tasted something this luxurious before. What a treat today! Everyone started flattering him. Chris Nolan clearly enjoyed their fawning. "Hey, Dustin! Look at Chris Nolan. A casual bottle is worth 100,000. Now look at you, bringing 2 bottles of cheap wine. Aren't you ashamed?" Florence both praised Chris Nolan and belittled Dustin in one shot. "Come on, let's see what kind of wine this guy brought," James said maliciously and opened Dustin's wine box without permission. Inside were 2 bottles of Matai, a famous Chinese distilled liquor with old packaging. "Ha, I thought it was something special. Just 2 bottles of Matai?" James sneered. "This kind of Matai is worth, at most, 2,000 yuan per bottle. It's nothing compared to Chris Nolan's Romani Conti." "Exactly. Matai's too low end now, even dogs wouldn't drink it," someone echoed. Actually, Matai wasn't bad, but compared to Romani Conti, it seemed insignificant. "Humph! How dare you bring such cheap liquor? Aren't you embarrassed?" Florence mocked. "Matai is honored as the national liquor. How is it cheap? Must everything foreign be considered high-end?" Dustin said calmly. Chris Nolan's wine is worth over 100,000 a bottle. Yours is just 2,000. Isn't that cheap? James sneered. Expensive doesn't necessarily mean good. What matters is whether you like it. Besides, who says my wine is cheaper than Chris Nolan's? Dustin retorted. The facts are right there. Are you still trying to argue? James scoffed. Humph. Bringing cheap liquor is one thing, but you're even shamelessly denying it. Disgusting, Florence said with disdain. Forget it. Since you don't know any better, I'll pretend I didn't say anything, Dustin said lazily, not bothering to argue. There was no point bickering with these people. All right. It doesn't matter if the wine is expensive or not. What matters is that it suits our tastes. I'm not used to drinking red wine anyway. I prefer Baggio, Old Master Nicholson said as he opened one of the Matai bottles and poured himself a glass. Huh! Why is the liquor yellow? Shouldn't Matai be clear? It's yellow and murky. Is this fake? Oh my God! He actually brought fake liquor? What kind of person is this? At the sight of the yellowish liquid in the glass, everyone began to stir. Dustin, you've got guts! You actually dared to bring fake liquor! What are you trying to do? Florence slammed the table and stood up. Dustin! If you can't afford good wine, fine, but bringing fake wine? What if someone gets poisoned? Can you take responsibility? It's terrifying. If we had drunk it earlier, we could have all been poisoned. The whole room erupted in outrage. Bringing cheap wine would only cost face. But bringing fake wine was malicious. Even Old Master Nicholson was now finding it hard to smooth things over. He didn't drink much Matai himself, but he knew it should be clear and colorless. Yet the glass before him was yellow and cloudy. It certainly didn't look like good stuff. Vintage Matai is this color, Dustin explained. Nonsense! James glared at him. Do you think we've never seen the world? What kind of liquor looks like that? It's practically piss. Exactly. It's obviously fake. And you're still trying to defend it. Florence shouted angrily. Dustin, I really didn't think you were this kind of person. If you couldn't afford it, you could have just told me. I would have bought you 2 bottles. Why would you harm others with fake liquor? Chris Nolan shook his head with a disappointed expression, though he was delighted inside. Such a stupid opponent wasn't even satisfying to beat. Believe it or not, this wine absolutely isn't fake, Dustin said firmly. How could someone like Natasha Harmon possibly send him fake liquor? Wow, it's lively in here. At that moment, a middle-aged man in a suit walked in carrying gifts. Dad, you're back? Weren't you on a business trip? James exclaimed. The newcomer was none other than Dahlia's father, John. The business deal was sealed early, so I came back to celebrate. John smiled and casually glanced at the table. Oh? Romani Conti? Even though it's from a recent year, that bottle is worth over 100,000. Dad! You really know your wines! James gave him a thumbs up. Old John, this wine was a gift from Chris Nolan. See how considerate he is? Florence said, casting a cold glance at Dustin. Unlike some people, who not only brought cheap liquor but even tried to poison us with fake wine. Fake wine? John was slightly stunned. That's right. This. James pointed at the yellow liquid in the glass. This fake wine was brought by Dustin. If we hadn't noticed in time, we might have been poisoned. John didn't say anything. He picked up the glass and sniffed it. His eyes lit up instantly. Without hesitation, he downed it in one gulp. Dad! Are you crazy? That's fake wine. You'll get poisoned. James and the others were all startled, but John wore an intoxicated expression. Smooth on the palate, rich aroma, lingering aftertaste. This isn't fake wine. This is priceless vintage Matai. What? The room fell silent, and everyone was stunned.
And just can't accept it. This can't be the end yet. You promised to never leave, and now you're gone. Can't believe I can feel the world slipping away as you slowly fade from my everyday. You promised forever a love without end, but now I'm left broken, struggling to mend. I thought we were so tight, I still see your face in every place, feel your warmth, your gentle grace. But now there's just an empty space, and I'm lost in this endless chase, keeping you in my heart, a piece of you I'll never let go. Though distance brings